All right, I think we're live on the Facebook, live on the YouTube, live on the 5 News app, all that good stuff. It is the very best time of year, March Madness. First 4 got underway last night, underway tonight, but the real stuff gets underway tomorrow. I am lucky enough to be joined by Curtis Wilkerson, HawgSports writer for Arkansas basketball. I go on TV every night, Curtis, and I pretend that I know what I'm talking about, and that's because I read your stuff during the day, some of the very best basketball stuff that you could find for Arkansas. So appreciate you joining us tonight. Chris is on the ground in Buffalo, our eyes and ears, everything going on before the Hogs take on Vermont tomorrow. So, Curtis, thanks for taking the time and letting us know what's going on down there in Western New York.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you thinking of me and appreciate those kind words. I mean, it's awesome to be here. You're right. I mean, for a guy like me, especially, this is the best time of the year. It's exciting, and what's been the best about it so far is all the pageantry of the NCAA tournament is back. You know, people are starting to venture their way to Buffalo from wherever, Vermont, UConn, Providence, Iowa, Arkansas, you name it. You're starting to see those fan bases pop up, those clusters of school colors at the different restaurants around the arena. So it's really exciting. Last year was amazing, but it really feels like March Madness is back this year. It's been awesome.
So you've been in Buffalo for a couple days now. First thing I want to talk about, you guys took a trip to Niagara Falls today, which I don't think is something the Arkansas basketball team ever thought they would experience. Just what was that like, seeing something like the Niagara Falls with the Arkansas basketball team?
I mean, I can't think of a better combination. Niagara Falls, it was incredible. I mean, it's something that kind of takes your breath away. It really is. And, the word that kept coming to my mind, just seeing that, it was powerful. An incredible sight. And to be able to share that, with the team and be a part of that, see their reactions and interactions with each other throughout the process. That stuff is priceless. And I think it's so cool, that the Razorbacks were able to get out and do that. I think it matters, in the build-up to the NCAA tournament. Say what you want, but you're getting that nervous energy starting to build up the day before a game. Last year, those guys were locked up tight in a bubble. They couldn't leave their hotel room. And so this year, for them to be able to get out and not just, see the sights and just kind of unwind a little bit, maybe get their mind off the game some, but to witness something like that, that's kind of a once in a lifetime type of experience. So, that's what makes the trip to Buffalo special for these guys, and that's what makes all these regional sites cool. There's something specific like that you can do, and it's part of the March Madness experience. I think that people don't really recognize. A lot of it's not the basketball, but it's the experiences and the things you get to be a part of that really make it special for the team and the players.
This is such a team with so much different personalities, right? Between Williams, Note, Amude, there's just so many fun guys on the team. What were they like at the Falls? Were they in awe of the sights and everything? What was their attitude kind of going through this today?
What stood out about that group today is they were just loose, collectively relaxed, and that really goes from the players to the coaching staff, to the support staff that was there. Everybody just seemed really comfortable with each other, and I think that's a sign of a good team. The chemistry's there, the camaraderie's there, and that's what you expect to see, right, from an NCAA tournament team. But yeah, it was really cool. You could tell that they knew, that they were seeing something that was special. A lot of pictures, a lot of selfies and videos that were being taken, obviously. But it was awesome. Those guys were grouped together as a team throughout the process. You didn't see guys off on their own doing their own separate thing. It was really kind of a family atmosphere. And yeah, you mentioned some of those guys, so many different personalities. A lot of people obviously coming up to Connor Vanover, Jalen Williams, asking for pictures, the two tall guys, right? Another guy that stood out to me was Kamani Johnson. He's kind of the life of the party, the class clown of the team, if you will. He was out there in shorts. Some other guys were bundled up. I thought it was a really nice day out. But it was just awesome. Those guys really enjoyed it. And it was definitely a really neat experience.
So then after you guys had some fun this morning, you hit the practice court for the first time, which is media hasn't been able to watch tournament practice in a couple years. So first of all, it's awesome to get that access back. But what did practice feel like today? Was it more of a hard practice or a loose, just get to see what the arena's like, talk Vermont a little bit? What did you guys get to see on the practice court today?
Yeah, it was more of the same, very loose, very relaxed. I guess as it turns out, If I understood Coach Muss correctly, maybe they had more of a full practice somewhere else off-site earlier in the day. Because I think he said that this was their second practice. But it was more of a shoot-around, So you had the guys split up on the different ends, working on game shots. You had the codes out there maybe working on individual moves with different players. I tweeted out a video of Kamani Johnson making a jump shot over Keith Smart. Those guys they're just out there, not necessarily messing around, but having a little bit of fun, but also getting some work in. And, it was a different feel for different guys. Some people were just out there trying to get a feel for the rims and the arena, the environment. That's a big deal when you go to these things. The depth perception is different from arena to arena. So getting a chance to get 45 minutes to get a lot of shots up, that's going to be really important for Arkansas before they go in and play tomorrow night. And one guy who maybe stood out to me, I watched a lot of these throughout the course of the day at different teams, and nobody really had a full-on, grinder of a practice. Some teams worked a little bit harder than others. I don't know anybody, really broke a huge sweat, but JD Note did. I thought that he was a guy, it looked like he was warming up for a game, taking some game shots, moving with a little bit more speed and urgency than others out there. So kind of get the feel that he might be locked in for this NCAA tournament.
Yeah, just going off that, speaking of Note, he had one of his, worst offensive performances, at least statistic-wise, in that final game against Texas A&M of the SEC tournament. You just mentioned he's out there looking like he's locked in. Did it feel like a guy that's ready to turn the page, that's ready to just put that in the rearview mirror and is maybe a bit more motivated after that game?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think he's very motivated for the NCAA tournament based on how the last one ended for him. If you remember the Elite Eight last year, Baylor couldn't guard him. I think he had 14 points, maybe on 5 of 6 shooting, and they were having a really difficult time with him, but he fouled out with 15 minutes left in that game. And you wonder if that didn't happen, would that have changed things? I don't know, maybe not, but I know that's something that stuck with him throughout the course of the season. And as we built towards the NCAA tournament, I think that's been weighing on him a little bit. He wants to have a better performance. And then to have the type of game he did in Tampa against Texas A&M, and it's true, it was kind of a clunker for him. Maybe the only time all season that he didn't score in double digits, 3 fouls in the first half. So just some uncharacteristic things that weren't really going his way. But he does seem fully dialed in and in tune and focused. And I would be surprised if we don't see a very good version of JD Note tomorrow night.
So let's jump into tomorrow night. Curtis has a great piece on HawgSports all about the Vermont Catamounts. I mean, a team that we know nothing about. You know nothing about for the majority of the season, and now you need to know everything about them before tomorrow night. So after this, go check that out on HawgSports. Curtis, diving into that matchup, what's your initial thoughts here as we're, just a little under 24 hours before that round of 64 game?
Yeah, well, Arkansas as the number 4 seed, obviously should be the team that's favored over 13 seed. But what you're seeing is, Arkansas is kind of a trendy pick to be on upset alert for this game. And that's more of a testament to how good Vermont is. I mean, this team can play now. And I think that they're a very balanced group. If you look at them, they shoot the three-pointer really, really well. They've got 8 guys in their rotation who have all made over 20 pointers on the season. Several guys shooting around that 40% mark. So we know that they can really light it up. You see that every year with those major teams that pull, some of those stunning sets. A lot of the times because they're knocking down a lot of three-pointers. So that's going to be a big key for Arkansas. How do they defend the three? This was the best three-point defense in the SEC. So that bodes well for the Razorbacks. But 2 of the last 3 games, they've slid back a little bit. A&M shot it well against the Tennessee. So that's going to be a heavy area of emphasis. Very disciplined team. They're going to play kind of a methodical pace. They're going to run their stuff, set a bunch of screens, and they're going to work you to death as a defense until they can get the shot that they want. So I think the question for Arkansas then will become, how can they disrupt what Vermont's trying to do with their defense? As we know, when Arkansas is dialed in, they can be stingy on the defensive end, and they take pride in taking teams out of what they want to do offensively. So it's really going to be a fascinating matchup, kind of a chess match. The other thing about Vermont, they've done a lot of winning. This is a group that's lost one time since the calendar flipped to 2022, and in that game it was overtime, and they were down 2 starters. So when they've been at full strength, they've won a lot of basketball games. Ryan Davis, 6'8" power forward, he's the America East Player of the Year, averaging over 17 points per game. That's going to be a big matchup for Jalen Williams. This is a guy who can score it inside. He's crafty in there, and he can stretch it out and knock down the three-pointer as well. So a big challenge there. They've got an off guard named Ben Shungu. kind of a neat story. He was a walk-on that became a scholarship guy, that became starter. Now he's a first-team all-conference guy. He averages 16 points per game for him, shoots it really well from three. So you think about the dynamic duo Arkansas has with J.D. Note and Jalen Williams, that outside-inside combination. Vermont has one as well with Ryan Davis and Ben Shunks. So probably a couple of the key matchups there.
We're talking with Curtis Wilkerson of HawgSports. NCAA Tournament begins tomorrow night. Curtis, Vermont's good. They've beaten a lot of teams by a lot of points this year. That America East Championship game, 30-point victory. How do we accurately look at Vermont going off their strength of schedule? Looking at the teams that Arkansas has played, looking at the teams Vermont has played. Obviously, two different stories. How does Arkansas accurately scout Vermont, knowing that, tomorrow Arkansas is going to be a level of opponent that the Catamounts really haven't seen all season?
Yeah, it's a good point. And, I think Arkansas is approaching this the right way, where they're fully focused. They refuse to look ahead. They refuse to even talk about the possibility of anything else. That one of the guys was asked today at the press conference, what do you think about this region, the West region? It's stacked. You've got Gonzaga, you've got Duke, Texas Tech. They wouldn't talk about it. It's all about Vermont. So I think that full total focus is important. And I think it actually helps this Arkansas team. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they lost to a team like Hofstra in the regular season. So they have come out and struggled and lost the game to a mid-major. So they know that they have to bring their A game, or it's possible that they could lose. So I think things like that help with the focus. And then in terms of preparation, the America East, it's not the SEC. It's not. And Arkansas has been very battle-tested. You talk about 9 of the last 10 games for the Razorbacks being quad one opportunities. They're not going to be intimidated by anybody. They're probably not going to see a lot that they haven't already seen. With Vermont, Constance was maybe a little bit weaker, but hey, they did some good teams. They beat a Colgate team that gave Arkansas problems in the first round last year, who has a lot of returners, beat them by 10 earlier in the season. They played Providence, who's a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. They're here actually in Buffalo for their game. Played them to a 10-point game. So they've competed. Same thing with Maryland out of the Big Ten. So they've got, it's a small sample size, but they played some good opponents and some somewhat comparable opponents to Arkansas. So I think reviewing that film and seeing how they adjust to life against, maybe the big boys when it comes to the length and athleticism and skill that a team like Arkansas has versus maybe what they see a little bit lesser of in their conference.
Experience is such a pivotal thing, come March. Arkansas's experience is so interesting because it's the younger guys that have the experience. Jalen Williams, Debo Davis, J.D. Note, and the older transfers, Amude, Trey Wade, Audis Toney, who don't really have that NCAA tournament experience. Where do you think Arkansas's experience ranks coming to this one, going off that Elite Eight experience, but also having players who are going to get a lot of minutes tomorrow who will be doing this for the very first time?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. It's kind of a cool dynamic or a sidebar of this matchup. And if you think about the projected starting lineup tomorrow, 9 out of the 10 guys who are going to take the floor are going to be seniors. And that's really interesting. Vermont has a lot of guys coming back from last time they made the tournament in 2018-19. And then you mentioned those guys for Arkansas. And I think it helps a lot when arguably your two players in J.D. Note and Jalen Williams are such a key part of what the Razorbacks did in the Elite Eight last year. Those are the leaders. Those are kind of the guys that make the engine run for the Razorbacks. And they've been there, done that. They figured out what works. They've been through the ups and downs. They felt the added pressure that comes with the NCAA tournament. And you have your leaders on the floor who have that type of experience. It's something that you can help kind of trickle down a little bit easier, more effectively to the team, as opposed to even maybe what a coach could do. It's firsthand experience. And when you have guys who are coming off the bench now, like a Debo Davis, hey, listen, Arkansas knows that March Debo is a guy that can win you a game in the NCAA tournament. He did it more than once last year. So you got to have some comfort in knowing that there's some guys who know what to expect going into this. And, some of those transfers too. Hey, Trey Wade played an NCAA tournament with Wichita State last year. Chris Light played an NCAA tournament way back when he was a freshman at Miami, but they've been there before, so they can relate to it a little bit, maybe more than the other guys. And so it gives you the ability then at that point to maybe offer some words of wisdom, some advice, maybe some of the things you were told when it was your first time to guys like Audis Toney and Stanley Amude, who are going there for their first time, but they're going to be such a key component to whether or not Arkansas makes a run at this thing.
Last year's tournament for Arkansas was so fun, but man, it would really get your blood pressure up from that first game against Colgate all the way to Baylor. They could have lost any of those first 3 games. They trailed in each and every one, of course, had to come back. JD Note today talked about getting off to a fast start. They can't do what they did against Colgate. They need to come out of the gate strong. But it's one thing to say it and another thing to do it. What's the key to getting off to a fast start against this Vermont team tomorrow and having a lead the entire game, even if it's by a couple points, and not putting yourself in a position you were in last year's tournament where they were down by double digits in almost every game?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is probably twofold. I think it starts with pregame and not getting too caught up in the moment and the hype and the buildup, because sometimes you can do that and get a little bit overhyped, and then you tend to come out flat. And that's something that Musselman talked about before that Auburn game, before the Kentucky game at home, because you knew the atmosphere was going to be so charged up. Well, how do you channel that emotion? I thought Arkansas did a fantastic job of doing that in those games. So I think they'll be prepared from that standpoint. And then once the ball tips, I think that it starts with defense. I mean, that's the catalyst for this Razorback team, right? I mean, once they started to turn things around, it's because they really picked it up on the defensive end. They make life very difficult for opposing offenses. They take away what the other team wants to do. They're physical, they're big, they're switchable. They cause a lot of problems for opposing offenses when they're dialed in and fully engaged. And sometimes you see in these NCAA tournament games, it's a new environment, a new opponent. And so the first several minutes, sometimes it can be teams feeling each other out, and you see defenses that are on their heels a little bit. I don't think Arkansas can afford to do that. So I think ratcheting up pressure early, being disruptive defensively, maybe creating some turnovers. And the other thing that goes off of that I think is going to be important is getting out in transition and getting some easy offense early in the shot clock, picking up the tempo a little bit. Because Vermont, they're going to want this game to be slowed down. They want it to be a grinder. They can set screens, shoot threes, get back on defense, and pack in the lane, right? Well, if Arkansas can be disruptive and spread those guys out and make them uncomfortable and then get out on the run, that's going to be advantage Arkansas.
There's still some time to get down to Buffalo, 24 hours, I guess. But what's the presence right now with fan bases? Obviously, Vermont's not right next to Western New York, but they're closer. You have UConn that's right down the road. You have Providence, which isn't far. And then you kind of have New Mexico State, Arkansas, and Gonzaga, which, you know, they're far away from home. What's the disparity that you've seen around town, around hotels, between all these fan bases?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yesterday was pretty light. I think a lot of people probably are traveling today to go to the games on Thursday. I've seen a lot of Providence fans, actually, maybe more than I expected. I've seen them kind of roaming around in droves, honestly. Pretty good amount of UConn fans, and you expect that. I mean, those places are a little bit closer. But, you know, as the time has progressed, I've been seeing more and more Razorback fans. There were a pretty good amount, actually, in the practice, which was cool to see today. Went out with a couple of other media members last night. Went to the Anchor Bar to try the original Buffalo.
All right, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Then, what was the review of the wing?
Well, and so here's the thing, and me and my neighbors with the Buzz talked about this. We gave it a 6.5 out of 10. They were good, not great, and what a lot of the locals here will tell you is, people hear about the Anchor Bar because maybe that was the original, but there's a lot of these local joints in town that are a lot better. So whenever I wrap up here, I'm going over to the next spot. And I have a feeling we're going to have a higher rating, but I'm excited about it. Definitely excited about it. But to go back to what I was saying, at the Anchor Bar the other night, there were 2 tables full of Razorback fans in there. So they're coming. I'm really excited to see what the final turnout's going to be. And the other cool thing about it, again, is, you know, they're allowing more things to happen. March Madness is back to normal, so you're seeing the cheerleaders, the bands for these respective teams come out. So you're really going to have a good atmosphere, I think, when things tip off tomorrow.
Curtis, we can just wrap things up here. What is this game going to look like tomorrow in your eyes? Give me a final score. Give me how things are going to play out, and can Arkansas advance to the round of 32 for the second consecutive season?
Sure. Well, you know what? I don't think it's going to be easy. You know, sometimes you see these matchups with the disparity in seeds. And it can be a blowout. And I don't necessarily see that in this game right away. I think there's going to be some back and forth. There might be some sluggish moments because it's an Arkansas team. They can go on scoring droughts at times. But I do think that the defense is going to come to play, and I think they're going to be disruptive. Vermont's probably going to hit some threes. That's just what they do. Mm-hmm. But how can Arkansas limit them in different ways? Can they corral Ryan Davis? I think it's going to be a big key to the game, what they do in terms of defending that big man. But listen, I think the stars shine the brightest under the biggest lights. I do expect a big game from J.D. Note, Jalen Williams maybe getting back on track, that double-double machine. I think this one might be a little too close for comfort for Arkansas fans. Maybe it half and into the second half a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think Arkansas is going to be just too much and pull away down the stretch. I think I predicted a 75-65 win for the Razorbacks. Get that thing in the double digits, maybe where you're feeling pretty comfortable shooting some free throws down the stretch. But it's not going to be easy, and they better play.
Curtis, I know Arkansas fans love to hear that. Curtis Wilkerson of HawgSports, go check it out. He's got the Vermont preview. He's got the Arkansas preview. You'll be the smartest man at the water cooler tomorrow. So go check that out. Everything you're going to want to know before the game and going forward. Curtis, really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Go check out those wings now before the game tomorrow. Let us know what's going on, and appreciate you per usual.
Absolutely. Hey, I really appreciate you thinking of me and having me on. Happy to join anytime, and I'll let you know how those wings taste.
Thanks, Curtis. Go enjoy those wings. Go check out Curtis's coverage, and thanks again.